Welcome everyone. This is the account bringing you the latest news updates for day 304 of the war in Ukraine. It is Christmas Eve and I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Sadly, today's news are dominated by a horrific Russian shelling in Kherson, killing and wounding scores of civilians. We will go over these developments first and after look at the minor news out of Ukraine, the occupied territories and the international developments regarding the war. But first, we will take a look at the flashpoints along the front. Svatove. Reports claim Ukraine is making steady advances around Kolomytsyha. Serhiy, the head of Luhansk Oblast military administration, reported that Russia is moving the administration from Svatove to Luhansk. This could indicate a worsening situation for Russia, as Ukrainian forces have gained momentum around Svatove lately. Bakhmut. The armed forces of Ukraine have either cleared or almost cleared Putin, according to a geolocated video. The video itself contains Ukrainian positions and therefore should not be shared. According to the Eastern grouping of Ukrainian forces, there were 225 Russian strikes and more than 28 battles during the day. Ukraine further claims Russia suffered 90 soldiers killed and 100 wounded in 24 hours. Pavlivka. Reports today indicated a Ukrainian unit got ambushed and lost equipment and personnel here. And now for the latest of the shelling in Kherson today. Some of the articles contain disturbing scenes and accounts, so viewer discretion is advised. Over the past day, Russia shelled Kherson Oblast 74 times, killing 5 and wounding 17. The attacks targeted critical infrastructure, kindergartens, schools, hospitals, shops, factories and homes. Shortly after the daily shelling update, Russia started another attack targeting the center of Kherson. More than 8 people have been reportedly killed and at least 58 wounded so far. President Zelensky said, "Social networks will most likely mark these photos as sensitive content. But this is not sensitive content. This is the real life of Ukraine and Ukrainians. The terrorist state is continuously bringing their Russian world in the form of shelling of the civilian population. Kherson, the morning of Saturday, on Christmas Eve, the central part of the city. These are not military facilities. This is not war by the rules. This is terror. This is murder for the sake of intimidation and pleasure." As more information was released during the day, we learned that 66 cars were on fire during the attack. In the evening, an update brought more sad news. Some people succumbed to their injuries, the death toll now standing at 10 with 55 injured. After the attack today, Dmytro Kuleba, the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, called on the West to increase the support for Ukraine. Moving on to the latest development out of Ukraine. The Prosecutor General's office reported that so far authorities have discovered 54 torture chambers in liberated territories. More than 5,000 inquiries into torture and other inhuman treatment has been opened so far. Currently, a pre-trial investigation is being conducted in 855 criminal proceedings over war crimes against children. President Zelensky has congratulated Ukrainians on Christmas and asked everyone to remember how much Ukraine has gone through. Meanwhile, families of captured Azov-style defenders organized the Azov Regiment Christmas in Captivity campaign. The families are asking everyone who celebrate Christmas on December 25th to pray for the Azov-style defenders. And now for a look at the situation inside the occupied territories. According to the Center for Strategic Communication Stratcom, Russia is turning Mariupol into a massive military base. A huge healthcare facility, built allegedly for treating the civilian population, turned out to be a military facility instead. There is a huge inscription reading Army of Russia on one of the buildings. Covert mobilization continues in Crimea. Russia is trying to make serving in the army more popular by promising recruits plots of land for their service. This is reported by the National Resistance Center. According to a statement made by Serhiy Haidai, the head of Luhansk Oblast Military Administration, 100 wounded Russian soldiers were taken to Starobilsk yesterday. Over the past day, the Ukrainian Air Force reported 13 strikes on clusters of Russian personnel. In addition, rocket forces and artillery units hit 2 command posts, 2 ammunition dumps, and 11 clusters of Russian personnel. And to wrap up the news segment, the international developments. In its latest assessment, the Institute for the Study of War again pointed at the Kremlin's continued deflection of criticism about Russia's military failures in Ukraine. Yesterday, Dmitry Peskov said that Russian forces achieved significant progress in its war objective of the demilitarization of Ukraine. In response, Igor Girkin, a key figure in the start of Russia's war against Ukraine, sarcastically noted that Ukraine's armed forces increased from about 250,000 soldiers to 700,000, and that Ukrainian forces are now equipped with advanced Western anti-tank ground missiles, precision artillery, and other systems that Ukraine did not have before Russia's invasion. Several current and former Russian officials and people close to the Kremlin described Vladimir Putin as isolated and unable or unwilling to believe that Ukraine would successfully resist. Putin has long refused using the internet, fearing digital surveillance, which makes him dependent on advisors. Frontline commanders report to the Federal Security Service, or FSB, the successor to the KGB, which edits reports for experts at the Security Council, who passed them to Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev, the archhawk who had... According to the Moscow Times, Russian media has been forbidden from sharing any information on mobilization issues. This ban even includes reporting on official statements about mobilization made by the State Duma or the Federation Council. Serhiy Nayev, the commander of the Joint Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, reported that Belarus moved a motorized rifle battalion and 2 tank battalions to the border with Ukraine. Russia has deployed a 4th cruise missile carrier to the Black Sea, raising the available caliber cruise missiles to 24. Operational Command South warns of a possible missile attack. And now for the intelligence update by the UK Ministry of Defence. Russia has augmented its force in Ukraine with tens of thousands of reservists since October. Despite the easing of its immediate personnel shortages, a shortage of munitions highly likely remains the key limiting factor on Russian offensive operations. Russia has likely limited its long-range missile strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure to around once a week due to the limited availability of cruise missiles. Similarly, Russia is unlikely to have increased its stockpile of artillery munitions enough to enable large-scale offensive operations. A vulnerability of Russia's current operational design is that even just sustaining defensive operations along its lengthy front line requires a significant daily expenditure of shells and rockets. And finally, the evening report by the General Staff of Ukraine. The enemy is concentrating its efforts on conducting offensive actions in the Liman, Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions and is trying to improve the tactical position in the Kupiansk direction. In the Kherson direction, the enemy continues to terrorize the civilian population. The civilian infrastructure of Chervono-Grigorivka, Dnipropetrovsk region and Burgunka, Antonivka and Kherson were affected by shelling. There are dead and wounded among peaceful Ukrainian citizens. In Gornostaevka, Kherson region, the Russian occupiers imposed a 24-hour curfew in the period of December 25, 2022 to January 3, 2023. For almost 10 days, local residents are prohibited from leaving their homes and moving around the settlement. And that wraps up today's report. If you're interested in reading up on some of the articles, I provided the links in the description. Thank you for tuning in, have a great day, and Merry Christmas. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.